Perfect.
Whoa.
All right.
Live.
Perfect, okay.
Welcome to the Alpha Dynasty.
Yes.
Welcome to the Alpha Dynasty. Jesus Christ. A podcast focused on helping you grow as an individual and setting the path for you to become the ultimate alpha. My name is Mario. I'm your host, along with the lovely.
Mari?
Eddie Dorado.
And today we have a special guest, co-host of ours, Shakira, who's going to be here with us. But we also have an amazing guest joining us today. For all those alphas out there who are trying to protect their assets, making sure that that coin stays in the pocket, we have a great individual who's going to be providing a well of knowledge when it comes to this. This is pertaining to wills and trusts, which is a very, very important topic.
Right.
Let me introduce you to Mr. Adrian Duncan. Adrian, welcome to the Alpha Dynasty Project. Man, it is so great to have you here.
Man, it's such a pleasure to be here. Definitely from the last event, I felt like we had so much chemistry from the last event.
Amen to
been
that.
Looking forward to doing the next, especially that Colombia trip that you told me about. That outfit,
Boy,
that outfit that you had on.
fire.
Like I need to get one of those suits. But
Yeah, we will.
I am really excited. I've been looking forward to this day for a while since you told me that I was going to have an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, and that's definitely a topic that we wanted to get in this, just because it's so important, right? Everybody out there's making that coin. Everybody out there is getting those properties going. Everybody else is trying to grow. This podcast, like we said before, is focused on helping individuals become the best version of themselves, right? With that comes a responsibility, and that responsibility being, how do you protect your assets? How do you protect your family? How do you get things in order? Today we have a lot of questions for you because there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and we want to make sure that you answer all these questions and get everybody out there informed. So let's start with the primary, right? I guess for all those individuals, for those who understand wills and trusts, guys, I mean, that is awesome, but there's a lot of individuals out there that don't understand what a will is, don't understand what a trust is. Can you kind of give us a little bit of feedback on what that is, what that entails, and what type of trust is there? What type of wills is there?
Yeah, so it is a legal document. So a living trust is a legal document that binds the systems to follow the instructions that you've requested for your assets, right? A living trust is not necessarily meant to particularly to benefit you directly. This is mainly your heirs. This is all the assets that you've accumulated over your lifetime and how you want things to be handled. There's actually two types. There's a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust.
Yeah,
So if you want me to go into detail about those now.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what a irrevocable trust is, a trust that's actually set up that cannot be changed. We'll talk about why those are important. Then the revocable trust. Now, revocable trust, it's a document that actually structures all of your wishes regarding how you want the house to be handled if anything were to happen to you, if you're incapacitated, your cars, your jewelries. And it's very interesting how families, when it comes to losing someone and the emotions start to set in, now you're looking at a situation where some people may feel like they're entitled, right? And so what the living trust does is it prevents any kind of that type of conflict. Where I look at where the irrevocable would come into play, so let's just say you have a large family, and let's just say the oldest sibling is a guy, right? That person may be the controlling individual in the family. Now, I've had cases where where the person is passed on, and the brothers and sisters, they go, hey, what's going on? And so over the course of time, this individual has rewrote a trust, right? Basically removing all the brothers and sisters out of the initial wishes, right?
That only happened in Mexico.
Definitely, I mean, in this case didn't happen not too long ago. And so it's interesting. And the reason why I like the irrevocable, because it locks it in. So no one can coerce someone that may be elderly, may not be completely there. That's one that's perfect to do.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: for there's obviously a lot of business owners out there that like myself, they have a business in play, and for a lot of business owners that have marriages that are crumbling down because of the long working hours for whatever reason may be, is a trust a good thing to have in that specific scenario? Like you have a business, and you're trying to get your business protected. Is that something that you should consider?
Yeah, you can. You can set up guidelines within the trust to dictate if something were to happen. But this is if something were to happen to you if you've passed on, right? So give you a little background about me, and you guys know me pretty good just from
Yeah.
the last event. But my name is Adrian Duncan, and so I have an accounting firm, but I also help with corporate structures, C corps, S corps, LLCs, nonprofits. So I understand those very well. So in that case, that may be something to protect yourself by having your assets within a corporation. So the corporation will actually dictate how the assets are to be treated. All right. Who controls a corporation? I don't want to get too far off, but it's the majority shareholder. If
Yeah.
you're the majority shareholder, you control and you dictate how things go.
Okay.
When you mention assets, is that just a particular kind of assets where you have tangible and intangible, or is just assets as a whole?
There's assets all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you mention revocable or irrevocable, once again, I'm coming from a standpoint where I don't know anything about this. So, can I start with a revocable and then make it irrevocable, or vice versa?
Yeah, you can. But one of the things, and I'll just be very transparent, I operate as the paralegal for a Citadel law firm. And so one of the things that Citadel law firm has referred to me is that typically it's more costly to actually make changes to an existing trust as opposed to just design a whole entirely new trust. All right.
So when you say that, is it abandoning the original, or how would we,
Right.
I mean,
Switching.
so how would we, when you say it would be more cost effective to just start a new one, what do I do with the old one?
You
By,
just-
by starting a new one, would that automatically just
Close the lapse.
negate the original?
Yeah, because
Or-
if it's an irresistible irreversible, sorry, not irresistible, irresistible. I'm sorry.
He just got it mixed up right quick and in a hurry.
All right.
Irrevocable trust. If it's an irrevocable trust, that means nobody could change it, right?
That's correct.
Unless who can
No,
change
but
it?
if I am the one who created it, can
Right.
I change it?
So in that process, what you'd be doing is you'd be overriding the previous, right?
Okay.
And so one of the things that when you write a trust, it will say this will override any existing directions, any existing trusts that are currently
Oh,
open.
gotcha.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Like an amended.
Yeah, like an amendment.
That's all it
Yes.
is.
Like in tax world, it'd be
There
like
you
an
go.
amending,
Yes.
amending.
Yeah, for the tax professionals out there
Yeah.
that understand this whole
Now
process,
we're
because
talking
we
our
are
language.
clueless.
Irresistible taxes. No.
Now, how does a will fit into this whole trust thing, and how will that work? How can you mingle that together? Like, what's the process between those two?
So with a will, it's more so like a written document of your directions, right?
Yeah.
But the challenges with a will is it could be contested, right? So if
Yeah.
I wrote on a piece of paper and I say, hey, if anything were to happen to me, Mario is to have my home, that could actually be challenged, right?
Okay.
I could actually come into court and I can say, you know what? Mario
Probate.
promised me, right, the car or the house. Now, I may not win because I don't actually have the support to show that that's what he said he was going to do, but I could stretch this thing out in court. I could prolong the process.
When you say support, are you talking about legal support?
When you say that again?
Yeah, when you said, well, I might not win because I don't have the proper support,
Oh.
what do you take?
Yeah.
Legal support?
Yeah. So any
Documentations.
proof
Well, he
that
mentioned probate.
yeah. Well, so ultimately that's the result of you not having a trust in place. So if you don't have a trust in place, your assets will go into probate, right? There's no ifs and buts about it. Now, if you don't ever, so let's just say, for example, the couple that I spoke with a few days ago. So the person passed away. They don't have any desire to sell the property, refinance the property. They're just going to keep it as is. The banks don't care. At the end of the day, the banks, their concern is the bill being paid, right?
Yep.
County is only their concern is
Taxes.
the property taxes being paid. Now, if you decide to make some adjustments with the home, right? There could never be any adjustments because the property wasn't cleared from the previous person's name. So So you won't be able to refinance it. You won't be able to sell it, right? And at that point, it will be subjected to probate.
So, as I understand it, then, with the will, probate is involved. With a living trust, probate is not involved.
Yeah. Well,
From what I'm gathering.
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Now, but so let me answer that though. See, with a will, I could say if anything were to happen to me, like you can have my comic book collection.
Ooh,
There's
comic
no
book.
reason for probate to be involved, right? This is just directions if something were to happen to me. So that chances are won't necessarily be challenged unless it's some trillion-dollar comic book collection, right? But for the most part, a will can actually provide the steps as to the way you want things handled if anything were to happen to you.
Okay.
Can you explain what probate is, just so people, if sometimes it's a new word
That
for
sounds
people.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
is it coming out of my pocket?
Yes. So, so I was I actually went through probate myself. My uncle passed away, and his brothers and sisters had all passed, and so I went down to the next of kin. So what probate is doing is they're determining the rightful owners of the assets, and this especially happens when there's disputes. Even if there is a will or if there is a trust, if individuals cannot agree, it could take the actions to court.
What is there to agree? I mean, you already written the will. You want me to have those assets. So what?
But you're not here.
Right.
You're not here. I was the child that you wasn't so liked, right?
The abandoned one.
Yeah.
No, but I left it in writing. What else is there? I mean, I put it in writing on my.
You mean through a will?
Correct.
Well, it wasn't. The courts haven't understood that. It hasn't been filed. It hasn't been recorded as to your wishes. A will is just something you might have put in a book, your favorite novel under the bed, in a safe, and I can come along and challenge.
Does that make a difference if I have it notarized?
I mean, I could still be challenged because
You
I
can
can
still be
say
challenged?
under what capacity did this get notarized? Or,
Like saying like they were under duress or anything like that.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, because there's notaries aren't always honest, right? If you got a friend that's a notary, you say, hey, do me a favor.
Absolutely. Just
Yeah,
put your fingerprint
stamp
right
that
there.
thing right there.
I have a question. If you have minor children, right, and you're a single parent, what is it better, a will, or what's the difference between the probate and the will?
You mean
And
as
the
far as
Or the trust.
For the trust, I'm sorry, yeah, for the trust. And also, what's the price? And do you also make payments, or is it you have to pay everything up front? Because I'm a single mom,
Sure.
so I know a lot of women, females out there, maybe they question themselves as well, like, okay, my son or my daughter, she's minor, what's gonna happen if I die?
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend a living trust to
Living trust.
everybody, right? But one of the things about the living trust having minor children, you almost put every direction in there. You're speaking and not here, basically, right? And so with that being said, you may say, well, my child, I want them to be with this individual. I want guardianship to be with this relative, right?
Oh, it goes that far.
Yeah. So
So it's not just assets. You can actually appoint people to be agents to care.
that's correct.
Oh,
That's
wow.
correct. Yeah, I mean, it goes so far in depth. And so, like I said, so for an example, so I had a client and she passed away, but the daughter was very young and she was leaving over $1 million plus to her, right? She didn't feel comfortable that she was going to receive all this money all at once. And so within the living trust, they gave directions to the trustee. So what the trustee is an individual that operates for the estate on behalf of the estate. They're not necessarily paid. You can compensate them through the trust, but they don't necessarily have to be paid. And it was the trustee was told that she can have portions. They can stage this out. So if she's 17, when she becomes 25, she can get this percentage. When she becomes 30, she can get this percentage. When she's 45, she can get all of it. Because she's figuring once as she ages, right, she's going to mature and have the ability to handle $1 million.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And what's the cost for?
So the cost ranges, right? You can go as far as having an attorney do it. For a single person, that could be about $3,000 or so, right? The attorneys that I work for, remember that old concept layaway? You know, you can pay a little bit at a time. You didn't look like you understood layaway. You remember layaway?
Oh no, she knows layaway.
You know, Kmart.
She knows layaway.
Quit
We're
acting
from
like
the
you've never
same
been to
era.
Kmart.
I mean, she's
I'm older than I look.
she's 25 years old permanently. A permanent 25-year-old.
I'm the proof that dinosaurs once walked the earth. I might not look like it.
A vampire in the mist.
So the attorneys will allow for you to make payments in whatever form. If you say, oh, I could do 100 here and 500 here, right? So you have that option. The other option is you could do self-prepared, right? I mean, I think you can log on to LegalZoom, but you have to do a lot of the filing on your own, and you won't have a lot of the instructions as far as what you have, right?
Yeah.
But I think LegalZoom, you could probably do it for like $500. And I know there's some other outlets out there, they may do it for like $800, but for the most part, like for example, in my process, I meet with you, I do the intake. We go over the questions. I understand how you want things to be arranged. It then goes to the attorney, right? The attorney must then review it. They'll then call you to verify everything is accurate. At that point, they'll put together two documents. They'll put together a document that's to be recorded with the courts, and they'll give you a document that's to be recorded like in a safe area, right?
Yeah.
And so, like a safe or somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I've had a case where it was denied, and so it was this one lady. I can't think of a better word. She was like a bag lady, right? She would be on the bus, the MTA bus, and she'd carry everything with her. She'd have a big bag, and she was dragging it, big black trash bags.
My future.
That standard's great.
Those right there are some goals.
Hey, don't put my bubble.
So it's very interesting. Although the appearance showed her as a bag lady, she was worth about $2 million, right? Her
That's
parents
what you meant,
and her
right?
grandparents had passed away and left land that went to the parents. The parents had sold the land, sold the properties. Proceeds went to her. It just stayed in the bank, right? She had a son, and the son, I guess, had cursed her, right?
Oh, man.
And so she says, I don't want anything to do with that kid, right? And so she was befriended by the lady across the street. And so I sat with them. And so the lady across the street said, yeah, she's going to leave everything to me. And as the trust was designed, I didn't see any of the proceeds going to the benefit of her family. It was going to the neighbor's family, to the neighbor's daughter, and how they saw fit, right? And so, you know, I'm like, you sure, right? She says, yeah, I'm sure. So I wrote everything up, and it got to the attorneys, and the attorneys actually had the ladies drive out to Irvine, sat with them, interviewed her, right? And the attorney called me back. They said, we don't want to take this case. I was like, oh, why? What happened? They said, we can feel something fishy here. Now, they can go somewhere else to do it, but we don't want to take on the liability, right, of putting this together and something to come back. Because
That's crazy.
it was. And what's very interesting, everything came out after. So once I guess she got the word from the attorney that, hey, we can't move forward, she called me back. That attorney was a fraud and a this and a that. And I was like, oh, your personality's starting to come out, right? Now I can see what the attorney saw that I didn't see.
Yeah.
So it does have to get clearance through, you know, because they're sealing their name on this, right? Because they don't want to be sued in regards to putting this thing together.
Yeah.
But so it's very important, right? The having one, but and a lot of people say, well, you know what, I don't have enough money for it, and I don't have enough assets for it. But it was very interesting. It is, I've noticed, it's not just an issue with those that don't have or think they have very little. It's also for the well-off, right? Like Aretha Franklin, she passed away without a trust, right?
Wow.
The former owner of the Miami Dolphins, passed away without a trust. Now,
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Now, this was an owner of a football team. So, from my understanding, in order to have a football team, you got to have billions.
Yeah.
So maybe he just didn't get around to it. A lot of us feel like we have time, right?
I think
When can I
everybody thinks.
schedule an appointment? Oh, no.
I think everybody thinks they have time until they don't wake up tomorrow.
Until it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I promise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's on a personal level. Now, what about for businesses?
Yeah.
Where do trusts come in with businesses?
So with the business, you can add notations in the trust as to how you want the ownership of the business to be taken over, right? This is your wishes. This is your company. You control full ownership of the company.
Right.
You say, hey, this is my company. I want Adrian to take over. This is my wishes. And it can't be contested. You may have cousin or, hey, he told me that he was going to give it to me. But yeah, but he told the attorneys, he documented here, that this was his wishes, that the company was to go this way. So it does protect corporate assets too.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And
So-
is it the same price? Like, that you guys charge the same, like 3,000, or is it different?
No, so it's the same.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it will be the same, right? Because that
insane.
$3,000 amount is going to be all inclusive of everything, right? Healthcare directives, yeah, pretty much everything that's
Speaking
needed.
of healthcare directives, going into healthcare though, because like Medicare, American, all that, they won't allow you to have any type of savings, right? Like investments. How can you use a trust
Mm,
to hide money?
it's very-
Oh, that got interesting.
I know the question.
Ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, we're just providing
Just
information out here.
Just a friend.
What
of
you
a
do with
friend
that
asked.
information is entirely up to you. This is just information.
Right.
Information purposes only.
Only.
True colors.
Eddie, damn it, True Colors came out.
All I'm saying, a friend asked.
No, no,
I'm gonna ask.
I'm asking for
A friend of mine told me, or asked me to ask this question, so we're asking it. Ask away.
Thank you, friend. Oh, my bad, man.
Whoa. Thank you, friend.
So technically, anything that's placed in a trust is private, right? It's no longer connected to you.
Are you using the word technically extremely loosely?
Well, I'm using it loosely is because I've had individuals call me, right? And they're trying to figure out ways to move assets and qualify for different things.
Right.
And so, yeah, if you were to move, let's just say, for example, your house in a trust, it's the ownership of the trust. And the instructions in the trust says it's to be handled this way, right? Bank accounts, savings accounts, corporate accounts, wherever you can name the trust as an owner, now that asset is the asset of the estate or the trust, right?
Let me ask you this about trust. Actually, I would like for you to explain to me, how is it that a trust has so much power? Because the way I understand it is that a trust would be considered like another living person,
That's correct.
right?
Yeah, that is correct. It's
Okay.
it's very similar to a corporation. Like a
Right.
C corporation is a non-breathing
So you came
entity.
prepared.
Yeah,
I know.
he did his
No
homework, just so you know. Like
questions.
Eddie's one that did his homework prior to coming here, because that is because again we want to provide that information for everybody out there, right?
Yes.
We're all trying to get this
Yeah.
main information as to everything. So yeah, it's a good thing you did your
That's my
homework.
field, financial
That's
services.
right.
So,
Yeah. No. And so my mind switched. So just give me the
Right.
question again.
The trust,
Yeah.
it has a lot of power because
Yep.
it's like another living person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it is. It is. So, like I was saying, it's similar to a corporation. It's a non-living entity, right? That has control that you have elected it to have, right? All of the controls, and like I said, if you're not available, if you're incapacitated, your trustee is to follow these instructions, right? And that's the reason why it's. I believe having at least, if you're going to do it for the first time, go through an attorney so you can get a really good understanding what you have, what are your rights, what are your protections, what can actually contest it, right? Because I'm going through a situation now where the husband passed away. There's a trust involved. It was very interesting. When the husband passed away, the older kids forged the death certificate.
Ooh.
Like
Forged?
Forged. So the death certificate says,
How do you forge a death
I don't
certificate
know.
without having?
That could be done.
So-
You'll be surprised what people can do
So-
nowadays.
Right now,
Not
right now,
not saying that I know
Mexico,
anything, but that,
I
yeah.
am so naive.
yeah.
to these
So,
things.
so the death certificate was forged, and
Jesus.
and it was stated that he was a single individual, not married, right?
Oof.
They then took possession of the body, and they buried him in a military cemetery. I don't even think it was military. Anyway, it was a whole lot of stuff
In the
going
desert.
on, right? Yeah, yeah. But it was a lot of stuff going on, and so this lady here, she's like, I have a trust. What are my rights, right? So now, because the filing of this case is in Oakland, she now has to go through the process of saying, hey, this trust here is documented, but it's not as simple as that, right? She had to go and contest the forged death certificate and complain to whatever board that was, right? This is, I found a friend that does cremation, and she was like, oh, complain to this board, right? That board eventually told her to do these things, came back and fixed it, but now it's a process, right? So she's undoing a lot of fraud, although she has the rights. But now it's proving the right, because
Right.
now we're in another county, and so they're like, okay, well, bring your case. Let us hear your case.
That's
She
interesting.
will win, but it stretched her
Right.
out.
That just seems like a lot of homework, though.
There's a
Like,
lot of homework.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit asinine to be able to have something that is legal and you still have the burden of proof. So how does that work?
Yeah, well, this one is kind of a one-off because they had somebody undercut the system and
Right.
forge a document stating that he was never married. So if he's never married, and this trust says a married individual, they're like, hey,
See,
this-
that's something I think in the funeral business you can't really prove. Like you could tell the funeral directors out there, you know what, they weren't married. They provide the information, and the funeral director will just put it,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
will
unmarried
put
because
the-
there's no way of proving it. I mean, there's
There is a way to prove it.
I
You
mean,
have to,
most funeral
there is
homes
a-
won't do their homework and trying to prove a situation.
No,
like
no, no.
that.
But when proof comes to shove, you
Yeah,
have to.
I mean, you could prove it. I mean, if the person came out, but if it was just the kids doing it, I mean, a lot of times it's hard. Now, getting to like the wills themselves, right? You said they could be contested,
Yep.
but in like in the funeral business, for
Yep.
one, somebody could say, "Well, I have a will
Yep.
stating that this my loved one wanted this and this and this and this and this,"
Yep.
and it gets contested. So, is that something that if they have a will, they want things done exactly how they want them done. They get a funeral insurance, they get all this stuff, put the will together, asking exactly what they want done. So that could still be contested and hold it up for X amount of time.
It can, but the challenge is in that scenario, if there's property, the property would still be exposed to probate because you have to change the title to someone, right?
Yeah.
Because the person that owned the home is no longer living. So who owns the home now?
So on the property side, but on the funeral side, like if they were trying
Yeah.
to get their funeral service,
Yeah.
can they still?
Oh yeah.
do like-
Yeah, they can. Yeah, if it's just on the funeral side, if they say, hey, if anything were to happen to me, I want to be cremated. I want my dog to go here, and those.
So they have to follow exactly what it says, like with the will.
On the smaller parts,
in
I
the
guess.
smaller
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, but the challenge is it could easily be like, who's to prove that this is the will, right? Because one thing, and I was a notary. Typically, what a notary does is they attach documents to a document.
Oh yeah.
So on a will, if you take it to an attorney, would that make it legal, more legal, or
Or is it the same?
It's the same because it still can be
it's
challenged,
different,
right?
but the same?
Yeah. So from the way I've been taught is the living trust is locked, solid, tight.
Right.
Cannot be contested.
So in other words,
Yeah.
a living trust is probably the way to go,
Way to go.
versus a
Yes.
will. I mean, we get brought up, and I guess we get raised with the idea that you have to do a will, you have properties, you have all these different things coming about, and they want you to do a will. But I think now hearing you, I'm starting to think like, oh damn, a trust is probably the way to go. Wills,
I don't
wills
like
could
the
be.
whole probate thing.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
the whole
and
out-of-pocket
And
stuff.
one of the times, I mean, we sat with multiple families on my business end, right? I've sat with families, and that's one of the questions they ask. Like, we had a client that we sat with together, and she asked that, right? Like, I have a house. I don't want to go into. So that's a question that gets asked a lot. How do I go? Like get the trust started. Get the trust started. Now I have another client that I just spoke to, who is actually going through probate. Now, how exactly does that probate process work as far as taxes go? As far as because now this individual inherited the house, but he's telling me like, oh, now I owe all this amount of taxes, or he's just freaking out. He doesn't know what's happening. So right, so they inherit like the I guess his dad passed away.
Oh yeah.
They gave him the house,
Right.
and now I guess they're going through probate. I don't understand exactly what, but is that a situation where like if they inherit the house, there was no trust, there was no will, there was nothing, they just left the house to the kids?
Oh yeah. Well, the only way they could leave the house technically to the kids is to change the title, right?
Yeah.
So the title has to be changed. So if they've changed the title, then it was already the kid's house before the parent passed, right? So,
So
yeah,
what if the parents pass away without them doing all that
Yeah.
paperwork?
it's probate. It has to go through the
It's
courts.
it does
And
not-
the
Automatically,
courts-
right? Just-
Automatically. I mean, well, like I said, if you don't do anything, right? If you're, let's just say you're the only child and you say my parents passed away, I'm never gonna sell this place, right? I'm just gonna pay the note. I'm gonna continue to pay the bank note because the banks don't know, right? I'm gonna continue to pay the property taxes, right? So let me take that back. The banks may be alerted based off of the
Death
death
certificate.
death certificate,
Yeah,
right?
because it's got to get reported.
You got to get reported. Yes, and so they may challenge it, but the thing is, as long as the debt is being paid, you probably won't hear anything from the bank.
Oh, yeah.
So that comes down to that's a risk that they got to take,
That's
right?
the risk you got to take.
But what it will say. So now, what happens? And then this specific scenario, like what happens if it goes to probate? Like what can the person expect going through probate? How does that look? What does that entail? Like what exactly is the whole process?
So let me tell you from my experience, like I was mentioning earlier, my uncle had passed away, his brothers and sisters had passed away, so then the ownership of the property went down to the nieces and nephews. And so it was like 15 of us
What state is this in?
here.
Here, okay.
Yeah. So depending, so let's just say this aunt had 3 and this aunt had 2. So the process took maybe like a year and some change, maybe a year and 4 months, 5 months, something like that. All right. I didn't necessarily take care of the finances part of it because that was paid. My cousin paid that, so I can't necessarily tell you what the court costs were, right? But the time in which the house just sat there vacant, it was about a year and a half.
So when you say, when during this process, I cannot occupy the premises,
And see, and that,
could I? Could I if I
well,
wanted
see,
to?
that's the family, right? Because if we're all not getting along, right, and the property is left to us, I may contest it. I may say, you trespassing. It's not your house,
Yes.
right? Why are you in there? And so, but
Is
if we're
water rights kind of?
if we're all on the same accord,
No, really
then
doesn't
it probably wouldn't be a problem. But if we're battling it out, then yeah, you couldn't.
But let's be honest, man. And when it comes to money, that's when true colors come out. That's when you
Yes.
start seeing people. I mean, people that you think were your closest relatives begin, start being your like worst enemies.
That's when
At that
soap
point, so,
operas come
to answer your question, there's a lot of people that will say, "Hell no, you can't live in that house. Like you can't. This is my house." And then that's
No,
where
but
disputes will happen.
Could I legally, because the way that I understand it at that point, we all share equal rights.
But remember what you said, equal. So I own the share. So what if I say no?
But I say yes.
What if 4 of them say no? Then they're 4 to 1.
You're ruled out.
Okay, so
That's
what
crazy.
if you appoint someone, whether in a will or a living trust, and that person is incarcerated, as the person who, let's say we have 4
You make
children.
wrong
that's
choices.
right. It's
Yeah.
So let's say we're
Unless they're an accountant and we're handling something very serious.
right. Okay.
and then I am incarcerated.
Okay.
Would I
Is that for a
still
friend?
keep my rights? And I'm just asking this
Oh.
because
Of a friend.
for a friend.
Yeah, for a friend.
Yes, for a friend.
For a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I will be incarcerated soon.
Jesus Christ. Is there something I don't know?
I check my wallet.
know.
Excuse me, Shakira. I thought we were very clear with each other. I thought we could talk. What's going on here? No, but that is a good question, though, because a lot of times when they get locked up, when people go to jail, all their rights get
If they
stripped.
know that they will go
Yeah.
to jail soon, and I know
Can
for
they move
sure
it over?
that I am the appointed agent.
Actually,
What do
those
you
are
call
great
Or trustee,
questions,
right?
Yeah.
What do you call them? Agents?
Trustee.
Or-
Trustee.
Trustee.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. So So let's just say a 20-year-old puts a trust together, right? And this trust, let's just say this 20-year-old passes when they're like in their 70s, right? Well, the original trustee may not be around. So you have the opportunity to put a trustee, a co-trustee, next to the co-trustee. You could put together a layer of trustees of someone that would be responsible for handling the way the trust should go.
So the way that I understand it, so if I put this document together when I am very young, as I grow older, I can add people. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so I can add people to these
Trust.
document, and is there a number of people? Is there a limit?
It's up to you.
It's up to me.
Yeah, it's all
How much?
based-
How much would it cost to every? Is it called an amendment? Is it
3,000
called like
for everything.
See, I don't know the cost of amending each time, but like I said, when going to the attorney, and I've had situation, I said, hey, we want to add these few things, and they said we can, but it's probably going to cost you more to make these adjustments than to just do a new one.
What about if you move to a different state? Does that will or the trust or whatever you get done in California, do you?
It's state specific, I guess.
Oh.
No, this is your wishes. This is your.
So this is pretty much
So
anyway.
if you move to Florida, right, and you have homes in California, this trust still is valid, right?
as long as the property and as the assets are within are national, or can I have assets
Outside of the country.
overseas?
Well,
If I have assets
You know,
overseas,
That is a
that's
great question.
like-
That is a great
Yeah.
question because I wanted to get into that, and
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. I
Yeah.
really am glad.
Yeah, so I actually just had a family come over about a week ago. And so they got, the parents have property here and they have properties in Mexico. And so I wasn't really sure on how that was to go, right? And so the attorney says they may not be able to do the properties that are in Mexico, but this couple, or this family in particular, they actually met with attorneys in Mexico to put together the same kind of package there to protect the properties in Mexico. Now,
So what you're suggesting is that if you have properties nationally, overseas, wherever you have properties, you should do the same with attorneys.
In the home country.
well, I think it could be a case by case basis, right? And I think with going into it, this is all planning, right? It's financial planning, and so going into the planning, we know the agencies that we should call, right? So we have access to the attorneys here, and we should be able to have access to the attorneys wherever the other properties are, right? To see how this is to be handled and packaged.
So at the time when you're doing the trust, and you know you have properties in Mexico, that's when you start reaching out to Mexico agencies
Oh, yeah.
or whatnot.
Or you guys
Right.
have information of any
Yeah.
attorneys that you guys recommend, or
I can ask. Like I
Can you
said,
give me
I'm
that
sure. Yeah, I'm
information?
sure they
'Cause I
have a
know someone
network
knows.
of,
Somebody,
you know,
or a friend.
they have a
a
network.
friend?
Because she's got a couple of mansions out in Mexico that she wants to protect. And I'm just saying,
yeah.
beneficiary right here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Whoa, you told me.
I'm getting the trust. That's all I'm saying. So getting back to the question that she asked, right? That Shakira asked earlier, which was a good question. So if an individual gets incarcerated,
Yep.
and they are the appointed trustee,
Yep.
so then at that point they will go down to the next trustee, correct? Because they'll be stripped from the rights at that moment. I mean, incarcerated people usually get stripped from the rights.
Yeah, because I don't see how they could actually do productive communication. Now, I don't know if you
Amen.
strip of their right. I don't know the
No,
Well-
but like on the trustee level, I'm not saying in general, but on the trustee level,
on the trustee level, because
Yeah.
you are the overseer of the estate, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know how you can actually run an estate by being incarcerated. So at that point, that's probably something very specific to the attorneys to
Yeah.
ask. But at that point, I would imagine this is where the co-trustee would step in to take the authority and to say, hey, let me make sure that these directions are followed.
That will make sense. But yeah, yeah, and I just wanted to bring it up to bring some clarification as to what, in the event that that situation is happening and somebody has that situation out there, they fully understand what's going to take place and what's the idea. Like, I mean, that was a good question because now you get to add different people to that trust and different trustees. So, because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
I don't know, but it seems like I hit a button over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking for a friend.
One of the things
We're all asking for friends.
All these friends, by the way, make sure you're locking in, you're getting in this, you're getting all this information because we're gonna be getting take notes, but you gotta subscribe, hit us up with your questions, but you got to get in here, and this is important information for all the alphas out there that are trying to get that information, that are trying to make that coin. This is important information. I tell you, there is a lot of topics that we can go over, but this topic right here, man, everybody who's trying to be somebody needs to know.
Absolutely.
I mean, because this is gonna cost you. This could definitely cost you millions of dollars if you. I mean, like we talked about the football owner, which is the Dolphins owner. So that costs money.
It does.
Right? So you need to make it.
Well, what's very interesting, a lot of the trusts doesn't necessarily even have to be about the money that's at stake.
Well, that's what I was going to. That's what I was asking. Is it just tangible or intangible assets? Well, but then again, intangible assets can come about. To tangible at some point.
So one of the most interesting things is, like I said, I mean, you kind of see it on the front end, but when someone passes, there's so many different emotions that's going on with the families, right? And like I said, then there's a lot of resentment, there's some entitlements, there's a lot of different emotions that's conflicting. And then once you bring in, let's just put money and houses aside, right? It could be mom's jewelry.
That's a big one.
It could be.
That is a big one.
It could be dad's fishing poles. Right? I think
Yeah.
the family that came in before,
The golf clubs.
it was the brother's
I like
hat,
fishing.
right? So it was a special hat that this gentleman always wore. Well, they fought over the hat, right? And so, like I said, because you're not necessarily rational in these cases because you've lost someone that you love. You're trying to figure, heads from tail on how life is going to be going forward. And now we got a division of assets, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want that, right? And like I said, in a lot of families, the oldest sibling will kind of determine and dictate, hey, this is what you're gonna get, and this is what you're gonna get.
That's how it should be.
But
Ideally,
what
right?
makes that fair, right? I mean, that doesn't necessarily make it fair, and that may not have even been the wishes of the parents.
But you're talking about, as I understand it, you're talking about a loss of someone via death, or a loss of someone being cognitive.
Yeah, so that's where the trustee would come into play to make sure that the wishes in regards to how this person wants to be handled. And I'm sure you guys deal with that a lot with the directives and what their wishes are.
Yeah.
So when somebody with cognitive disease, like, when they just lost their ability to take decisions, they come and go. They do not necessarily, they're not with it all the time, but they're with it with enough sense that they can make decisions. How is that proven?
Cool.
So I am out of it 70% of the time. 30% of the time I am with it. And within those 30% of the times I'm making changes to my will or to my living trust. Is that legal, or is that taking into another?
You asking for a friend or?
That's for you. No, I'm just kidding.
She's like, I'm asking for myself. I'm forgetting things half of the time.
30% of the time. Just asking.
Yeah.
She does. She forgets half of the time. So that's okay. I'm just kidding.
And I do. No, but no, that came in because someone was actually making changes while they were in and out of it. However, if it was, who proves that the changes that I made were made when I was with it?
Yeah.
So
30% of it.
Yeah, so I actually had a case like
Very
this,
specific,
right?
30%.
And one of the things that they recommended was the doctor had to sign off on how there they were, right? And so one of
You
the
could pay off the doctor.
one of the things
so
that
that's,
delayed it was their ability of not being alert,
Wow.
not being there. And so we couldn't have the trust done until we felt that the doctor could prove that they're there well enough to understand what they're signing.
So that could potentially be a long process, right?
It could possibly, but like you said, there's always
A little payout here and there.
That's why we need to get it done before.
Right now, that we're like,
but even if you do it before, when you're losing your
Yeah.
cognition or your ability
could-
to take
yeah.
cognitive decisions, then
they could make that. You could make the. They could claim that you're making the changes, and yeah, that totally makes sense. That's, I mean, so I guess the thing here is pretty much try to be as prepared as possible. But
Yeah.
the idea of it changing, or the idea of somebody forging certain things into it is still there. Like you can't fully remove it.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean,
you can override it, or you cannot remove it.
I mean,
right? Is
I
that how
because again,
understand it?
because I used to think wills were like freaking like
Oh, yeah.
like
Like that.
iron, like they were just like sealed. Like once you have a will, like it's
Set on
just,
stone
yeah,
kind
there
of
we
thing.
go.
Yeah.
So that was my see that's why this was so important to me, because like to me a will is like, damn, like I have a will,
Yeah.
forget about it. Like nobody could take this from me. Like
Right.
I'm done, I'm set,
Yeah.
and I'm
I
coming.
thought as I had
Yeah.
it notarized.
And that
I would
yeah.
even handwrite it, and because that's what I
Exactly.
have. That's what I
'Cause
was.
that's what most people used to tell you.
I'll handwrite it.
Yeah.
I'll have it notarized. 2 witnesses will sign it.
Yeah,
I'll
la
print it in
vecina.
blood.
Spit on it here.
that's
oh
it.
yeah, I mean
And-
that's good.
And that's exactly what
Yeah.
our community usually used to do, right? Write everything on a piece of paper
Yeah.
and
In blood,
notarize
in
it.
blood, in blood,
And
in
yeah,
blood.
blood thumb there.
Thumb and
And then all of a
blood.
sudden it's like, it's legal. Now come to find out, it's like,
I mean,
it could be contested.
be
It could be
contested.
legal, like if everybody plays nice, I
Yeah.
guess at the end of the day, but it could be contested.
How much
though.
time do we have, by the way? Because I have a question.
Ask away, we still have a lot of time. We still have
Oh,
time.
It's already.
So-
Let me
Nobody-
just give you an example on how things could be contested, right? And so this is a little bit off of living trust, but this is about housing, right? And so this guy came to me and he had this taxes, and tax bill was large, and I was like, hey, what happened here? Why'd you pull the money out of the retirement? He says, man, I had to get an attorney. I said, oh, why? What happened? He says, man, somebody tried to take my property. I was like, what happened? So he says, and you can look them up. They're called the LA 40 Thieves or some old
LA 40?
40 Thieves, right? I guess there's some
That
back
sounds
in.
like an Alibaba kind of.
Yeah. So like so the
Arabian
yes,
story.
exactly. So I guess that was the name of their group. And so what they
how
would
original.
what they would do is they would prey on upper class property areas, right? And this one in particular, it was those properties off of La Brea on the top of the hill, right? Where they would find, typically they're looking for an elderly person. And so what happened was the guys, they would go to the house and they would say, they went to the court and they would say, hey, I'm placing a claim on this property is mine, right? So they go to the court, they get the summons, and they take the summons back to the property. And so in this case, they place the summons on the door, right? To say, hey, you've been served to show up in court to prove that this property is yours, right? You think, that's easy, right? And so what happens is they take a picture to verify that they've been served, send that picture back to the courts, and once they take the picture, they remove the summons. So you don't ever know you were served.
What?
Right? Yeah. And so I
Damn,
wanted
shady.
to bring this up because one of the things that I learned in this process, this was the
Damn.
client had taught me this, right? He had to go and contest this thing. And so in contesting it, they had to get to the courts at a certain period of time to countersue this dude. They eventually countersued this dude. The dude, I guess, in court, they said, you've lost the case, and he cut the check right there in the court and walked out, right? Feels like a criminal offense. So what I learned in that process is that verify that your property has a homestead insurance or policy, right? And I asked him, I said, oh, where do you get that? He said, you go down to, like I guess in this case, you would go down to Norwalk and verify that your property is
county
homestead,
registers.
right?
Home.
Homestead.
Stead.
So that's what
Homestead
these
insurance.
guys would do. They would place a claim on the property, summons you to go to court, right? Have somebody serve, and then take the summons off the door, so you never knew. And so what happens is you default it, right? Now the property is his.
Okay, so does that apply? Like, what if I have owned the home since the 1900s, just for example?
Yeah, in this case, he's saying the property is mine, right? And so
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like even if
that's
I,
he's placing a claim. They're saying I'm placing a claim that this property here
That's
is mine.
crazy.
And the only reason I
That's
brought that
crazy.
up is because we're talking about assets. But one of the things that people should look into,
No,
make
absolutely.
sure that you have homestead protection on your properties.
No,
It doesn't have anything
absolutely.
to do with living trust.
So,
Wow.
ladies and gentlemen, just
important.
pay attention to that specific thing, homestead. You
Yeah,
need to make sure you
homestead.
have it because you don't want to be. You don't want to go through that position. I tell you.
Yeah, it happens.
See, these are all things that man, I didn't know none of this stuff.
ludicrous.
That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
ludicrous.
But
You,
see-
you would think so, right? Like,
How is it that so okay.
No, handle.
yeah. So this is what it was supposed to be.
Go
It
ahead.
was supposed to be.
I'm getting offended.
It was supposed to be
I-
fought in court. Prove
No,
that
but-
you have a claim to this house. How do you have claim to this house, right? We've been living in this house, but they never knew that they were served, so they didn't have the opportunity to fight it or
Okay,
contest
okay,
it.
so how do I know that I have to fight it or contest it? Because I didn't even know that I was served.
So one thing that you should do, so you don't have to worry about it, verify if you have a home and it's homesteaded. Protected.
So if I have a
Most insurance
homestead,
policy, I believe, do it, but something that it should be looked into.
So
so
that's
if I have
something.
a homestead insurance, I don't even have to worry about that.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's what they didn't have.
So
So when
that's
that comes through, like if I have that type of insurance and somebody comes, I wouldn't even know about it. They will take care of it, kind of thing.
They won't be able to file the claim because they can say the property's already homestead protected.
Oh.
Yeah.
see.
So they go through records, Sergeant.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
go
They
ahead.
go to records and see which one doesn't have it.
Which ones don't?
That is insane.
Yeah.
See, that's something that most people. I mean, I didn't know. Apparently, a few of us didn't know.
I'm about to
But
go
most
get me a
people,
home.
most people don't know. So they.
Yeah.
Jesus,
And they're
I mean,
preying on
I,
those. that-
and I'm telling you, there's a lot of people. There's people watching right now that probably have similar issues or even seriously
Yeah.
take advantage of this information.
Yeah,
Make
for
sure you
sure.
guys are doing something about this.
Give
Make
your
sure you
phone
guys.
number.
Oh yeah,
so they
definitely.
can call you
Oh,
directly.
Oh, we're
no,
gonna
no.
we're gonna pass all that information
for
later on.
sure. Yeah.
Definitely, we're gonna get
Yeah.
we're gonna get them because
Yeah.
you guys need to be prepared.
I have-
Jesus
I have a
Christ.
final question.
No,
Yes.
If
ask
you-
away. Ask
Yeah.
away.
So you mentioned quite, damn it, quite positive
Thanks,
things.
sister.
What?
Go ahead.
Quite positive things about wills.
Yeah.
And negative things about it. And you also mentioned this equal for living trusts. So now that we have a little bit of both, what would be your advice to say you are a perfect candidate for a will? You're a perfect candidate for a living trust. Whether you own just like common peasants like us, like whether you own like
And she's talking
like-
about all of us. She's all of us.
just you, not me.
Oh, okay. She's just. I guess she referred it just to me. Yeah.
That's
but-
a sheep
Or
pointer.
if you are bringing billions.
I like her. Yeah, I like her. I mean, she wants to protect her assets.
And my assets are so good. No, if I'm bringing 20 grand a year home, if I'm bringing a billion or so
Yeah.
home, what would you? Is it
A monetary amount, or is it?
No.
no
Oh, like-
how is it directed?
Yeah.
How is it that what would I like to do? Is it depending on my income? Is it depending on the amount of heirs that I have? Is it depending on
Assets.
tangible or intangible assets?
Or does it depend on what kind of family you have? If you know they're gonna be like all over it,
Well,
right?
Crazy.
well, let's just say where I feel a will would be okay. If you got no children, very little assets. If you have like maybe a cat or a dog, and you want to make sure it goes to a good family, and I have a story about that too.
A python.
Things like that. Hey, my clothing, I went into this person.
My cologne collection, my shoe collection.
Things that
Underwear.
Oh no,
of
Eddie.
that nature. But anytime that there's property involved, I recommend getting a trust, right?
When you
Because
say property, it's a tangible property because I'm very
Very technical.
curious about intangible, something that I created now that most likely will make profit later.
like what?
A brand, a
Oh.
name,
Oh. I'm so
intangible,
sorry.
something that is just, I don't know, some ethereal shit.
Well,
Hey, you know, you could cuss.
Oh,
Yeah?
I can
You
cuss.
cuss. Oh, yeah, you cuss. You're good.
Okay, so
Like, we're not gonna block you out.
Like I am going to fucking like
Okay.
you gave me
Then
the
say
right
that. Yeah, then say like completely open it up.
develop these crystals that will activate rivers. And the crystals themselves are tangible, but the activations of the fucking rivers will be intangible. So
No, in regards to that, you're probably looking at an attorney to either decide if you need to have something trademarked or patented or
Yeah, 'cause that looks
something
like
like
more
that, right?
business.
Now, ownership of the asset itself, you may, if something were to happen to me, this is what I desire for the ownership of the asset to go to, right?
asset general.
Even if it's just in idea form, you can say, hey, this idea has already been patented, and my value is I feel like this could be $1 million idea. If I pass away, I want it to go to this friend so that they can continue the legacy.
Mario, just to be.
And the keyword is patent your idea prior to.
It could depending on the idea. It could be a patented. It could be a trademark. It could be a copyright, and so
But
that's.
you have to do it prior to.
So, in other words, a legality.
Well,
Have it illegally.
That makes
I mean, you want to have something legal.
Well, yeah, for sure. Especially if you, anytime you have any type of idea and you feel like this could be the next biggest thing, right? You definitely want to protect it.
Yeah.
It was
Wanna
very
copyright
interesting, and I'm gonna sidetrack for a little bit.
Oh, handle.
But when I see individuals online and they're posting, "Hey, this is my new clothing line and my new clothing brand,"
Nike.
and I tell people like, don't tell anybody about any of your ideas or your brand or anything, because there's this thing is called the USPTO website, right?
USPTO.
USPTO.gov. And
What is PTO? Stands for?
so it's the United States Patent and Trade Office, right? Something like that, right? So let's just say your brand is Glory brand, right? And I see you on Facebook, and you're like, hey, get the Glory brand. I'm like, oh. I'll go on the USPTO site. I'll do a search. I say, oh, nobody owns that.
Thank you very much
I'm about
for
to buy it.
advertising for
And
me.
so then
Wow.
what I'll do is after I bought it and go through the legal process, then I issue a cease and desist. I say, hey,
Damn, we
Thank
might
you.
just open
Damn.
a new can of worms.
And that's-
So in
Man,
regards-
we're definitely gonna have to have you back for something just on that story
Okay,
itself.
yeah, USPTO.
Oh man.
So I'll just tell you something very interesting. This is how my brain works, right? Anytime I see something that come across, I go straight to the USPTO site. Let me own it, right? So it's very interesting. Technically, you're not supposed to sing "Happy Birthday" to you. Britney Spears owns the rights to say "Happy Birthday," right? So there's a lot of things where the rights.
Damn, Brittany.
Yeah,
Really?
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 There's a lot of things
thought
that
she was a blonde
that
bimbo, huh?
website can tell you, right?
15
and so-
I
seconds.
did not know that.
I didn't
See,
know
but
that either.
that's the thing, right? Like
Wow.
we don't know what we don't know, but
Yeah.
this is the platform where we actually
Wow.
get to understand
That was
what.
very deep
Yeah,
and
no, it's
original.
no. I mean, very deep,
And
right?
original.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
but that's where this comes
USPTO,
about.
let's
That's
see.
where this comes out, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
just imagine putting your brand out there. You don't, and all of a sudden somebody
Yeah.
gets that.
I'm
man,
sorry,
that'd be-
I kind of
Yeah, you took it the
drifted,
left
yeah.
field.
No, that's okay
okay.
because the
Sorry.
drift kind of applies to, like, let's just say you've gotten this patent or trademark, and you're like, if anything happens to me, what do I do? And you still add that within the trust directions because you remember you're basically speaking from the grave. Hey, if something were to happen to me, I want this patent to go to this person, full ownership. I own it, right? But I want them to control it. Now, we probably have to talk to an attorney to determine how the patent should be written if anything were to happen to me and how it directly transfers over to the other person, right? So those are conversations that we have directly, but that's something that you would add within the directions of the trust because you remember the trust is everything. So
Question.
let me just tell you the questions about the cat. I mean, the story about the cat really fast.
Oh, yeah.
And so, so I was working with this family. It's very interesting. The gentleman I was working with, he was a janitor at the high school, right? And so the lady his friend was a teacher at the school, had passed away, left him everything, right?
The teacher at school that passed away,
Mhm.
the janitor.
Left everything to the janitor, right? And so I got a couple stories to tell you.
That sounds like
That's
a story
already-
itself.
That's
Watch-
already,
yes,
I
yes.
want to know
Okay,
more.
Yes. So
I want to know
Hermosa.
their names.
That's all you get to know,
Yeah.
Shakira. That's all you
So
get to know.
It was very interesting. Her parents had just passed away, and they had these homes out in San Pedro, and I'd never been in a home where there was an elevator, but they had elevators in the home, and all this stuff was left to him. But what's very interesting, so it was also he was left a cat, and so the cat, he was told you were supposed to go to a cat sanctuary and give the cat to the sanctuary, right?
Give the cat to the sanctuary.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, in the trust, it says the trustee, I'm supposed to take this
I'm not
cat.
even have to keep the cat. I just have
Yeah,
to surrender
because
the cat.
the instructions in the cat. I want my cat to go to this cat sanctuary,
Okay.
and so he goes to the cat sanctuary to give the cat, and they say, well, how dare you? You guys didn't ask us if we wanted a cat, or you didn't even find out if we had availability to keep a cat, right? No, we're rejecting it. He says, well, I'm the trustee, and are you rejecting it? Yes, I'm rejecting it. And so he had to go to the next alternative, and he found another sanctuary. Word got back to that other sanctuary that carried with that cat was $1 million to care for it for the rest of its life. And they called him and they said, hey man, you still got that cat? And he was like, you guys rejected it. No, I did exactly what she told me to do, and I gave it to this other sanctuary.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. So you watch how you treat people over time, right? Because there's another case. There was a judge in Compton that passed away because she had fallen out with all of her family members, left everything to the nail tech lady.
What?
That was her only friend. And so when she passed, all the family kept coming around looking for all the stuff and assets, and the trust didn't have anybody's name in it, right?
I have a question. What about what about for a life insurance? You know, if you have a life insurance and you leave the beneficiary, like, and it's not your family, but you leave it for someone else.
Yep.
Can you also put in the trust? What is it that you want with that money?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. So I've been an agent or have had a license since '98, right? So I just thought, like, I pass away and the beneficiaries get the $100,000. The beneficiaries are to do what they're supposed to do. But there's no instructions with the life insurance policy. You're supposed to do anything.
Yeah,
Give them the money.
you could keep
So
it.
technically,
And we had
if
the
I get
situation.
$100,000, I could take a flight to wherever I want and leave the body. I didn't sign up for this. Like, you left me this money, right? And so where the living trust comes into play, it adds that policy to the living trust. And it says the proceeds are going to be paid to Adrian Duncan. And Adrian Duncan is supposed to make sure that my burial is done properly, and that this person is paid, and that person is paid.
So you get to dictate.
You can dictate everything within the living trust on how the proceeds of the policy, and that's the benefit of adding the life insurance to the living trust.
Not a will.
So the living trust,
Living
because the
trust.
will is like, I didn't see that, right?
yeah, living trust.
So in other words, a living trust is probably the way to go when it comes to that, because there is a. I mean, there was a situation like that where the son got the life insurance and said, well, I got the life insurance.
Yeah.
I don't have to cover the funeral expenses.
Yeah.
Let the
Yeah.
let the
That
wife
is
take care of
true.
it,
Yeah.
and he ended up getting the money. Then let the wife deal with the whole funeral expenses. So yeah, life
So
insurance
I
in
can
essence,
leave
they keep it.
$10,000 to you, and you can get a boob job.
Oh.
You can
You can get whatever you want to get. Yeah, you
Because
can,
there's
you can definitely get whatever you want.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
You.
Oh,
that check
really?
is
Okay.
yours. Yeah, that check.
I'll make it happen.
That check is yours. So yeah, you don't have to. I mean, there's nothing in the insurance policy that says that you have to do anything.
Yeah.
It's, the check is now in your name.
So in other words, if you
But
have a life
with a
insurance,
living trust, I get to dictate what
You
you
can
do.
dictate it, right? You can say make the trust the beneficiary, right?
Oh.
Ultimately, the proceeds of this insurance policy is going to go to Adrian, and Adrian is to also do this, and he's also to do that, right? So who takes care of all that is the trustee, right? The trustee is making sure that Adrian gets his money, right? Matter of fact, the trustee can determine how everything is distributed, right?
That's what I'm doing in mine.
yeah. So living trust, living
Living
trust,
trust.
living trust.
And you
Well,
won't have
wait,
any
that's
life
how.
insurance.
That's what I said. I diverted from my actual question.
Yeah.
because
Ask
I was,
away.
Because I was saying we talk about living trusts as if it's the actual beacon of where to go. However, can you say anything positive about wills?
Yeah, I mean, it is your final wishes, but if there's assets involved that need to be transferred of ownership, the will is not effective. I mean, if cars are involved, right? The car is still in the other person's name. How can you rightfully claim the title of the ownership of the car? I mean, you can. You can drive it as much as you want, pay the registration, right? You can do whatever in regards to that, but with a will, this is really your wishes, right?
Yeah.
I want my clothes to go to Goodwill. I'd like for my brother to have my caps. And those things are pretty simple on paper, you can write. But if you got an asset that needs to transfer to another person or be controlled by another person, I mean, there's ways around it. Like, for example, if you pass away and if once the banks get word that you pass away, your bank accounts are locked, right? And so you may want to add a second signer on your bank account just in case things like this happen, even if you're not coherent. Like who's to control your assets if you just have a will, right? Well, in that case, you may need someone to be
This
a
is such a
second.
great information. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's really important because what we do is we see the fallout of it, right? I mean, kids grow up at birth playing kickball together, brother and sister, and parents pass, and they're at each other's throats.
Yep.
Even families.
That's
even
what I'm saying.
family. That's why
And
I was
that-
like, I trust more
Yeah,
other people than my
Yeah.
own family,
That
my
happens.
blood
See,
family.
that
you know,
happens. That
That
does
happens.
I
happen.
see them as
happens.
my family.
Yeah,
That
that
I tell
happens.
my kids
Yeah.
all the time. It's not blood. It's whoever's been there for
Been there
you.
for- I
So
agree.
I told
Yeah.
them like,
Ouch,
This is the
Maricela,
person.
ouch.
this is this is the person that is
Including
gonna
you.
be in charge.
Yep.
And they were like, Mom, I know we're in good hands.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's the trustee. The trustee that you put in place is a person that you trust.
yes. Do they have the
Undoubtedly.
same price, the will and the living trust?
No, I mean, because with the will, I mean, you could probably get a will, $100, $90,
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, no, jump on the
Or you
trust.
can even just draft up your own will.
Like
and just
like
get it-
Shakira said, just write it down and then take it to a
And-
notary, get it
and-
notarized,
and
and it's
that's
done
your-
deal.
No, but
Yeah.
then that whole thing. But not
No, but I
when
think-
it could be contested.
Yeah, no,
and
that yeah. So
probate and all
the
that,
idea
Like
is
those are your points.
you gotta get a trust.
Yeah, I would
mean,
recommend, and
yeah.
it doesn't matter about your income level, any of that. I think it is very important if you've accumulated assets over your life, all right, and if you have children, even if you don't have children, like for example, the older bag lady where she had disowned her son, right? You have to determine if something were to happen to me, where does my assets go, right? If you pass away, the banks lock the account, and then what they do is they look for the next of kin, and then that's a whole trace thing, and then they find the next of kin. You got to prove you're the next of kin,
Oh,
and now you
God.
got to go to these institutions and
Yeah, yeah.
prove that you're the next of kin. And I went through that process also, and so that's a long process too. And so it's important. It's just, and I think one great thing about this platform here is to tell everybody that planning is important.
Yeah.
I mean, we've planned for birthday parties, graduations,
Quinceañeras.
vacations, whatever it is. We
You're talking about very happy events. I think people divert from those kind of topics because it's not so happy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
True,
it can
but it's
turn out to
necessary.
be really a horrible nightmare without the planning. And
Yes.
that's anything. Let's just say, for example, if we don't plan for life insurance, what happens when you pass? It causes chaos in
Yes.
the family. If we don't plan for retirement, by the time we live and get past our working age,
Still working.
right? We're still working. We're cross guard or whatever it would
Walmart.
be available for us to
Sorry.
do at that time, right? Because there is prejudice against age. Are you going to be able to get to work? And at that, after you've been working since you've been 17, 18, who wants to work that many years? So planning is very
A
important.
masochist.
True.
What's interesting, the clients that I've worked with over time, I've worked with doctors and actors and you name it. It's always been the women that just, because it's something about the working woman that's dedicated to making sure the family is taken care of.
Oh, I have a lot to say that.
And
It has
they've
to do with
placed-
biology and.
Jesus,
Oh,
we're
it's
gonna
a
get
biology
into.
thing?
So we're doing the next episode on just on
biology of the woman.
but guys, this is extremely important information.
We're
You need to tap in.
anatomically and
Yeah, you need to
I'm
tap
almost
in. You need to ask
empezar.
questions. Tap in and
We
ask
don't have
questions, guys.
questions
We're about to
on-
get into whatever it is they're writing out here. So who has the best eyes? Come on, Eddie. Read away. Whatever they are.
Damn, Walmart, I'm
Opulence.
sorry. I didn't mean to say anything bad about Walmart. I mean, it's a good plan.
Man, I shop at Walmart.
money will
I shop at Walmart too.
make
Yeah,
your
right.
family snake you. I don't understand.
Money will
Money will
Make your family snake you. Sometimes, and that's the reason why you need a trust.
Yeah,
You
that's
You
the
need
reason
a
why
trust
all of
just
that.
for that. I'm not saying all families do that, but if you have a feeling your family's gonna snake you, probably be a good idea.
If you're making a comment like that, get a trust.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what?
amen to that. Yep, that's exactly why you need a trust.
I mean,
Next
you know,
one.
Go Lemony Fresh News.
Yeah, next one. What is it? Very good info.
Sub from me.
Come on, give me some names, guys. You guys are close there. As you can see, I'm wearing some crazy
Okay,
glasses.
so this one, Minority Opulence. Oh, great,
Damn, I
great
work-
name, great name. Damn, I work at Walmart. So somebody that works at Walmart, somebody that does not have, and I'm being stereotypical,
Yeah.
opulence.
Yeah.
Somebody that makes lower income than the most average population.
Not to say Walmart employees make lower income, because by any means are we saying that? Some of them make
Spend a
really
lot
good
of
money,
money.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That should make
Yeah.
a lot of money because
Yeah.
I
But
spend
continue.
a lot
Yeah.
of money there.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going. I'm taking the direction of the comment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying that this
No.
person, and
Yeah.
smiley crying face.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm feeling the pain.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so somebody, let's take like somebody that does not make that much. You mentioned probably what would be best.
In all cases, I would say a living trust, right? Because let's just say you're whatever your income level is. What if you're in a coma? Well, who's
Yes.
going to or what about the healthcare directives, right?
No matter the income that you bring in.
Yeah, no matter income, right?
Yeah.
I think it is a form of protection to make sure that you are covered without being able to speak for yourself. And and so
Yes.
many times, have you seen like where you've things have been done on your behalf, and you say, I didn't want that to be done like that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that could be an accelerated level of choices that's being made if you're no longer on this earth, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not available to protect yourself and say how you want things to go, and people will make the decisions based off of what favors them.
Correct.
And so regardless of what it would be, right?
Damn,
So-
you're talking about quantum mechanics right now.
See, but that's the reason why you gotta get prepared. That's the reason why you.
Yes.
Okay,
Preparation.
first of all, that's the reason why you got to contact Adrian. Got to contact him,
Please, yes.
get that information out there. You got to get. I mean, this is something that's important, guys. Come on, it's really, really important. We talk about wills, we talk about trust, but
And you work all throughout the state.
Yes, so pretty much any state we can do it in, right? But in all cases, it could be different. And so before I go into anything, we go through an inventory of questions. I go through an understanding of what you're looking to achieve and where there may be gaps that I may not understand. Those are directed right back to the attorney. Hey, we need to have some questions understood before we proceed.
You just opened something new.
Is
right?
there any programs that you guys have like a fee waiver, like for people that is like low income and they can afford the $3,000? Is there anything like that out
so
there?
unfortunately, this is their price. There's always movement within the price and the ability to actually pay based off when you're able to pay. I can pay 100 here or 200 there. They will work on the trust, and in some cases, they'll even complete the trust. They won't issue it until it's completely paid for. But you have the
What
ability.
does that mean? Issue? Does that mean that it will not be legal until I
Yeah, it's
complete?
not. Yeah, it's just
Oh, okay.
documents.
Okay.
They're holding documents, and they're like, "Hey,
you
once
pay.
you pay for it,
Then
we'll
we
send
provide
it
Then
to
it
you."
will be legal?
And then once we,
So you
yeah.
call layaway. You
We'll
can't
sell
put them close on
Yeah.
until you get them out, buddy.
you can't pick it up until it's all paid up.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like you, Mario.
Órale, mira.
Te la está tirando.
I know. Damn. Cut down the wine, please.
It's your fault. You're
We're cutting down that wine. Cutting it
Do
down.
you
Cut.
see how they limit me?
Hey, you're
Yeah,
on a
just
roll.
one bottle?
we're limited to one bottle.
I think by the second cup, you were rolling.
But you know what? It's crazy how that bottle got her talking, got her asking questions,
Because a moment
and
ago,
bam, there it
she
is.
said,
Mario did it on
I will-
purpose. Yeah.
No, it was, these were questions.
No,
that
she
I
would have asked questions. She would have asked questions
So, no,
regardless.
no, se hizo de metiche.
actually- You're eating my chocolate.
And he has another one down here. But so getting back to it is important. And so let's ask this away.
Okay.
Somebody needs to get a hold of you. How do they get a hold of Mr.? I mean, I know how to get a hold of him
Yeah,
because
for
I
sure.
just dial him
Yeah.
up. But how do you get a hold of Adrian? How
Yeah.
do you? Because we are gonna put it. We're
Yeah.
gonna link it in. But
I appreciate it.
how do you get a hold of Mr. Adrian?
Well, I am. My office is based in Carson. I'm right across from the Carson Mall. My number is 310-283-3767. If you want to find out a little more about me, there's some information on my website. It's TrojanAccountingInc.com, and I'm all for planning. I'm not the individual where I'm going to rush you into any type of sale to get a sale done. All right, I would rather you understand everything that you have, right? Or even if it's the best decision, like you said, it may not be the best decision, and that's how I carry out through all of my businesses. It's all about the person and the customer service, and I feel
Amen
like
to
you
that.
do the person right on the front end. Whatever blessings will come later,
Amen to that.
they'll send their
Amen
friends
to
and their
that.
family. I would rather have business come that way as opposed to just trying to make money each time. And so if there needs to be a consult, and if there needs to be a consult after that consult, I would rather you get all your understanding and answers out the way or understood.
Well, I felt very comfortable with you.
Oh,
I like
good.
talking
So she
to
probably
you.
is. She is going to be getting a trust with you. Just she is going to be getting it ready. I think everybody in this table.
Consultations. Do you charge for consultations?
No charge for consultations.
How long are the consultations? An hour, 2 hours, or
Man,
is it like?
so the family that came in with the properties in Mexico, I mean, it was scheduled to be an hour, but we were talking, right?
You just say
And
that
I
because
looked
we're
up, we were at the 3.5 hour mark. I was like, whoa.
They buy your lunch?
Yeah, I mean,
What's it tacos?
yeah, so I don't ever, that's something like
They're Mexican,
in
they brought
how
their
I
own.
handle
Oh, they are.
business. I like for you to receive clarity before proceeding in the. I hate being on the buying end and I got something and they say, oh, what is it and how great is it? And I'm like, well, they told me it was great, but I can't really give you all the ins and outs. And so I like for people to understand what they have, and also I think another thing that I'm not gonna say is different, that makes me different from others, but the process, right? So today you meet with me and we got a good understanding of everything, but 6 months from now life may change, or maybe what was that again?
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be known as a guy. He sold me something. I don't know what it is, right? I want to make sure that as you grow, I grow with you. As your level of understanding needs to be there, I'm offering myself as a resource. And then I'm not the only resource. There's a direct line to the attorney. Now I need to talk to the attorney directly. Okay, cool. Here's the attorney, right? Because like I said, I'm just.
And this is an attorney that you choose, or is this an attorney that I choose as your client?
So in my case, it would be the attorney that I choose, right? It's the Citadel Law Firm. That's my direct relationship. I've been with them
Okay.
since '07, but I'm sure any estate
Do
attorney
they
could
speak
do it.
Spanish?
And they do speak Spanish, and that was the
that is
concern.
That isn't.
That was the concern with the last family. They said, "Hey, I'm translating to my parents, but I want to make sure that people understand that I'm telling them what you're telling me, right?" And so, is there a translator with the attorneys? And I said, "Yeah, is there somebody who speaks Spanish?" They said, "Yeah." Now, other languages, I'm not necessarily sure all the languages that they speak, but I do know that there is a bilingual or Spanish speakers.
Okay.
At the,
So that's
Citadel Law Firm.
that's I think that's a big part of our community
Muy
that
bueno.
looks for the
Yeah,
Spanish
sure.
speakers. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we definitely need to have
I
that.
am getting a lot of Vietnamese on the Spanish side.
You know what? I mean, they could be Cambodians, Filipinos.
Yeah.
There's a
All
lot of
Filipinos, yeah.
there's a lot of Filipinos too. So that is important. That is definitely important. That's something you guys should. I mean, we all need to consider.
Yes.
I mean, as we continue growing, as we continue moving up in the chains, I think that's something we definitely need to consider. Because it's like I said, I was completely wrong moving into this. I thought a will was the thing to do and a way to go. Now I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, me too, me too.
"Ooh,"
So
now
I
it
feel
just-
I feel
Start
very
that test.
comfortable. I feel very comfortable. I feel very.
Yeah.
I felt that you were very quite transparent,
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
and I felt that you were quite informative as well.
Oh, thank you.
And not only did you put yourself out there, but you said, you know what, if I'm not the choice for you, I can outsource you.
Yeah, for sure.
If I'm not the one.
Yeah.
So that made me feel
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not just you. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause that's similar to the way that the way that we operate is the same
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
The way that we
Yes.
work, the way it's the same way. You know, it's like we're here to provide a service. If I'm not your choice, then you go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And you
And
still
it's
have the
quite
information.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
quite okay that you leave with that information. But yeah, education is a big thing. I think
Oh.
today was a very, very informative.
very knowledgeable.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
knowledgeable.
I'm leaving here
Very
with a
informative.
well of knowledge, and for those who didn't tune in, you're gonna wish you did. But just continue, just jumping in. And, you know,
Minority opulence.
yeah,
Minority.
and then just Walmart is.
It's cool.
I shop at Walmart all the time.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Walmart right now.
Are we allowed to say that anymore?
Oh,
Well, we're out to say whatever we want up in here.
Right.
It's our podcast, so
yeah, for sure.
much love.
All right.
All right, so everybody got all the questions out of the way. You guys think you guys got everything?
Oh,
you
I'm
guys?
sure we
I need to schedule an
Plethora
appointment.
of
That's what I
questions.
need to do.
So if you are ready for that, and I, you know what, I got a bunch of clients that are actually ready for that. So if you're ready for that, make sure you reach out to
One last question.
ask away.
My auntie, she did ask me information about this since I didn't have this information. She lives in Riverside. Do you guys drive over there, go to their home, or
that's a
actually
good
they have to drive out here? Or you guys have someone out there?
Either way, I mean, if it's me, I could go there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk
And
to
if
her.
if there's some information that needs to be reviewed prior to hand, I could definitely send something. Right. I can
Okay.
send the intake sheet and the documents that are directly from the attorney, and they can read through it, and then we can schedule some time. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'll definitely reach out to you.
Yeah, we definitely all need to reach out. I think
Yes.
everybody needs to jump in. We'll leave the information there for Adrian. Very, very professional. Like I said, a Well of Knowledge came in today. We want to thank you definitely,
Thank
Adrian,
you.
for being with us today. It was, man, you answered
It was a
lot of
blessing.
questions.
It was
You
a blessing.
man,
You're
this-
always a blessing.
This was
changed my mind, brother. You
Yeah,
changed my mind.
This was fun, man. I think I before we got started, I laughed so much. I was like, "Oh man, this is a comic relief here, man." So, hey, I'd love to just sit in one of these chairs and just listen and be a part of the action. But this is beautiful.
And yeah,
And,
Thank you.
I know this is a great thing that's going to be going forward too. So,
yeah, and then we do look forward to having you, continuously having you on the podcast. It's information that we need to share. It definitely is. I think there's so many things. Like I said, our thing is to help individuals become the best version of themselves, right? And through that, obviously setting the path to become the ultimate alphas. The best portion or the best part of who they are. But that comes with so many responsibilities coming from knowing how to do certain things. This is a vital part of that, because as we continue to grow, wealth continues to grow. Assets continue to grow. We need to know how to protect them, because not knowing how to protect them adequately, one, causes so many issues within the family. Now that we're finding out, these are things that constantly happen. Not only on a trust and will issue, but I mean we see that day in and day out. And it's just, we continue to grow. Everybody's going to continue to grow. And now we understand that you don't need to be a well-off individual. You don't need to be a millionaire to have a trust. You just need to be an individual who's looking to protect themselves,
That's right.
protect their families, and continue to grow. And that's
Protect their wishes.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we definitely are going to push for. We definitely would love to have you back again sometime and get
look forward to
explore
it.
this. We are going to be having events, so definitely
yeah,
be
we'd love
jumping
to.
on those.
Hey,
All right.
make it
So
serious.
so wrapping up this day, wrapping up another episode of the Alpha Dynasty podcast. We are very, very happy to have you all here. For all those who tuned in, thank you so very much. Don't forget to follow, like, share. This information is vital, guys. This information
Suggestions
is,
for our next
yeah,
one?
absolutely, yeah. So we
Yes.
are taking suggestions. There is a lot of individuals that are now looking to come into the podcast, but we do want suggestions. We do want to hear what you want to hear about. Whether it be any type of topic in the fitness, lifestyle, whatever it may be. We want to hear what you got to say. With that being said, thank you very much once again, Adrian, for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Adrian.
Thank you.
God bless you, Adrian.
Yes,
Bless
God
you.
bless
Thank
my
you for what you
brother.
do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all of you for watching, for taking the time to be here at the Alpha Dynasty Projects, Alpha Dynasty Podcast. Thank you very much, and see you up on the next episode, which will make it a really, really good episode as well. Thank you very much. Good night. Catch you on the
Great.
next one.
God bless you
Yeah.
guys.
Bye, my peoples.
Awesome.